Good evening. You are welcome to our virtual teaching again. I'm happy to see you again. In our previous discussion, we looked at the effect of the Trans-Saharan trade on the Western Sudanese people, and I hope you could recall some of the things that we talked about, right? We said that it led to the spread of Islam into Western Sudan. We also said that it led to instabilities in the regions where the commodities or the items of trade were sorted for. We also said that it led to the development of towns and other important effects that the Trans-Saharan trade had on the Western Sudanese state. Good. We are looking at yet the last topic about the Western Sudanese, and possibly we will close the chapter on the Western Sudanese states. And today I'm not particularly happy with the topic that we are going to treat, but I'm happy to inform you that, of course, today we are going to look at the reasons for the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade. So this remarkable trade, this profitable trade that enabled or that ensured that money was transferred among Africans themselves, got declined. And we are going to look at the factors that led to the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade. It's a rather sad lesson, because Africans trading among themselves was very, very, very good for them, and I'll tell you why later. Now, our lesson objectives today would be that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to examine the reasons responsible for the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade. So, what were some of the reasons that led to the decline of this remarkable trade? Good. So, let's quickly take a look at it. It's a short discussion. So, one of the reasons for the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade was the Moroccan invasion of the Songhai Empire between 1591 and 1595 AD. As of course, this was the major reason that accounted for the decline of the trade. You could be asked, what was the major reason that accounted for the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade? It was as a result of the Moroccan invasion of the Songhai Empire, and this happened between 1591 and 1595 AD. Now, the intense struggle for power had at the same time created an atmosphere of instability and insecurity, especially on the strategic trade routes, and this made the traders to lose interest in the trade as they were compelled to move away from the trading centers. So you realize that at this time there was this political tension. Morocco, Al-Mansur, who was then the Sultan of Morocco, decided to attack Songhai, and we all know Songhai as a great empire, one of the Western Sudanese empires. So the Moroccans, or Al-Mansur, decided to attack Songhai in order to subdue it. And of course, in the course of the attack, it created this instability and insecurity. When there is war in any town or in any area, trade cannot go on. Trade can't flourish in a war-torn areas. No. One of the requirements of trade, for trade to flourish, is peace. Okay, relatively with peace. But here we realize that in the course of time, there were wars as a result of the Moroccan conquest or attack on Songhai, and so some of the traders, lost interest in the trade because they feared for their lives as a result of the political tension which had arisen from these times. Now, another important reason that also led to the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade was also as a result of the partition of West Africa and the establishment of ports. So you take notice that prior to the partition of West Africa, of course, and the establishment of ports, now the trade further declined because of the partition of West Africa by the European powers such as Great Britain, Portugal, France, and Germany, among others, after the Berlin Conference of 1844 to 45. The partition marked the beginning of colonial rule in West Africa, and for that matter, the Europeans introduced efficient means of transport such as motor roads, railway lines, and harbors that made the transportation of goods and services easier, safer, and better in comparison to the riskier journey across the desert. And after the partition, there is something we call the partition of Africa, where the major European powers, as we have them over there, met in Berlin, that is in Germany, and they decided to share or to divide Africa among themselves. So they gave portion to the British, they gave an African portion or part to the Portuguese, they gave an African part to the to the French, another part to the Germans, and they encouraged them to go into those areas and rule them. Okay, and so we are saying that as a result of that partition, and when these Europeans came in, they also constructed motor roads, railway lines, harbors, so that goods and services could be also, of course, could move easily. And people, or the Western Sudanese, or the people, the principal people who were engaged in the trade, seeing, of course, motor roads and railways and harbors, they could easily transport their goods easily than to rather go, a long way onto the desert and all in the name of trade, looking at the dangers that they encountered on the trade. It would be better for them to just stick to trading with the British or with the whoever, which European power was in charge in the area, and rather than risking their life on the journey on the desert. And more so, they had trains to carry these things, and so obviously that will lead to a decline in the trade, in the sense that people will now not travel to the desert again to trade. Now, another reason was the anti-slavery campaigns, which led to the abolition of the slave trade. And another significant reason for the decline was the abolition of the slave trade and slavery by Britain in 1807. And the resultant effect of the abolition was that the Trans-Saharan trade could not continue any longer, because the purchase of slaves formed part of the major commodities of the trade. So, trade or slaves were a major item of trade in the Trans-Saharan trade. And so when the British abolished slave trade, that is trading in humans, in 1807, if you were found to be engaged in the trading of humans, you would be persecuted. And therefore, we are trading, and we are trading in gold. Now we've been asked not to trade in gold anymore. So what are we then going to trade in? So it means that our trade is going to fall. I hope you get the whole idea. Again, the next one, the arrival of the Europeans on the coast also killed the middleman role in the trade. In addition, we are saying that the trade declined as a result of the arrival of the Europeans on the West African coast. Now, for example, we had the Dutch, we had the Danes, and we had the Portuguese, who arrived on the coast, introduced a wide range of gunpowder, jewelry, clothes, and among others. And the activities of these Europeans influenced the caravan traders to instead turn their attention to the coast and take part in the private trade. So prior to while the trade was going on, prior to the arrival, or the Europeans had not arrived and the trading was going on, the Trans-Saharan trade was flourishing. But with the coming of the Europeans at the coast, the Europeans also came with certain, attractive, attractive commodities that the Africans were, liked so much. Example, gunpowders, which they used to embark on wars, jewelries, clothes, whiskey, mirror, and all these funny trade items. But in those days, they were very, very useful to them. So what then happened was that the Africans now or the people, the Arabics, the Berbers, the Western Sudanese now came to, like those items, and they wanted to trade more with the Europeans at the coast instead of, trading among themselves on the desert. Okay, you get the whole situation, and this has been the beginning of the European and African trade agreement, pact, if I may say it that way. All right, and let's take a look at the last one, and I'll come back to that. But the last one was that the Tuareg also changed their role from offering protection or security to being raiders. Right? Yes. So now the Tuaregs, whom we have said that protected, their role was to protect the Western Sudan, the traders in the trade. Now it got to a time they started to raid or to attack of course the traders in the Western Sudanese or in the Trans-Saharan trade, and that led to the decline of the trade. Okay, but most importantly, let me come back to the last but one reason. I have something to talk about it. So you realize that was the point when Africans began to trade with the Europeans, and since then we realize that there has been a paradigm shift whereby Africans are now much more interested in trading with Europeans rather than themselves. So you realize that a lot of our goods are channeled to European countries, okay, whilst we also import, other things from there. And the effect of this is that money does not stay on this continent. Money, of course, constantly goes out of Africa. Okay, but you realize that with the Trans-Saharan trade, what happened was that money stayed in the African continent because the people were trading among themselves. Africans are making Gucci or the manufacturer of Benz or the manufacturer of Toyota or a company rich, because look at the number of cars we import from Europe. We are making somebody rich. Look at the so-called boutique shoes and clothing. The Gucci, the D&G or so, the whatever, the Fernando and whatnot. Look at the amount of money that Africans give them. Their clothing industries, their shoe industries, their car manufacturing industries. So you realize that, of course, today Africans are not trading among themselves, and that is partly one of the reasons why Africans are very poor today. All right, yes, and so I've seen some, good light whereby some African leaders have taken upon themselves to have this African intercontinental trade, also ECOWAS trading, also that they are trying to establish this same trading issues whereby Africans will trade among themselves, and I think if we will do that, it will really help us. Good. So we will bring our discussion to an end. So if you are asked to talk about some of the reasons for the decline of the Trans-Saharan trade, I hope you will be able to talk about that. So we shall meet again some other time, but subscribe to the channel and also recommend it for your friends. So we meet again some other time. Bye. But quickly look at the try work before you go. So you try your hand on it, and I'm confident you'll be able to do that. We meet again some other time. Bye.